Hi, I'm Jim from Scanning Pens, and today we've got a really exciting webinar for you today. We bring lots of exciting guests, and we know how important it is around the exams times for you and your school and supporting customers, supporting your students. So I'm really excited today to introduce Paula. So Paula, can you just quickly introduce yourself?
Yes, thank you, Jim, for the warm welcome. I'm Paula Wood. I'm the founder and director of Exam Officers and Data Solutions Limited. So we operate globally, supporting exam centres, exam professionals with training, compliance, centre registration, everything to do with exams. You will find that we offer a training course or some support with it. So we've been established, it's our 7th birthday this year. So really exciting, and hundreds of years combined experience within the team as well.
Paula, tell me a little bit how somebody who's maybe a new exam officer or they may be experienced but haven't really joined maybe a community, and how do they go about kind of joining your community and how they maybe come to you for some training?
Yeah, brilliant. Thank you. So we have, first of all, we have our 2 online communities that are free to exam professionals. So we have nearly 4,000 members across the 2 communities now, which is fabulous. So they're on LinkedIn and their Facebook. And as I said, they're absolutely free to anybody who's an exam professional. You'll get some questions asked when you try to join the group. So we try to keep the group secure. And also, if you visit our website, so if you just Google Exam Officers and Data Solutions Limited, you'll find a wide range of courses that we offer. We have a variety of online courses, and we also have our face-to-face events. So across England, London, Manchester, York this year, we have events for new exam staff, but we also have update sessions as well for experienced exam staff. If you are new to role and you don't want to wait for one of the face-to-face events, you can join our online induction, and literally within minutes of paying, you have access to a full range of resources that will help support you throughout the first year in role. I'm always happy to jump on a call or a Zoom and chat about exams officer training as well. So if you want to do that, just fill in the contact form on the website or give us an email, details again on the website. And I'm happy to chat about individual circumstances within schools or colleges and what we would recommend.
Perfect, thank you. What we'll do is, and I'm sure you don't mind, Paula, is popping obviously a link into the chat and for people to access from the webinar. So if anybody wants to have a look at your website or contact you, we'll find your contact details. So we'll get that provided for everybody. So thank you ever so much, Paula. So we know how difficult it is around setting up exams and supporting those students and ensuring that everything's set up. And we know some of the pain points for you. And we really wanted to kind of get you on today, Paula, and explore them in more detail. So I had a couple of questions. And one of the main things that we've been looking at is around the exam administration. So around kind of the logistics of timetabling, the seating arrangements and the exam room setup. Could you kind of run through a little bit around kind of some of the problems that exam officers might face and how we can basically help to support? So what are the different solutions to help those?
Yes, as we've seen every year, there's been an increase in approved access arrangements, and also we have the centre delegated access arrangements. The JCQ have made great steps in streamlining administration for exam staff and for the SENCO, or the Head of Learning Support, in the administration of access arrangements or the applications, but the impact on exam officers continues to be huge, and on centres. You know, we hear of some colleges, and we support some colleges, that on the day of the big GCSE exams, maths and English resit, actually shut the college because it's the only way that they can run the exams, because they don't have the room in and they don't have the staffing capacity unless they actually collapse the timetable for that day. But there's more awareness now of access arrangements within parents, so they go to the schools and when we go down the normal way working route and then get the application in place, it's then up to the SENCO and the exams team to work together to look at the seating arrangements, to look at the exam room setup. People outside of exams don't realise there's a small window of opportunity where exam staff can access either the physical paper or the online version of the paper, and to then have to get that out to all the rooms and get that out to all the students to start the exam on time can be really quite difficult. What we always say within the group and within the training is planning is key. Lots of centres are aware of all the planning that's needed to facilitate the smooth running of the exams. And we say to new exams officers, don't be afraid to ask for support. Don't be afraid to go to your senior leader or your line manager and say, to be able to deliver the exams compliantly and smoothly for the students, this is what I need from you. And it is about networking. It's about discussing best practice, what happens in other centres and what works well. And then if you're running internal mock exams, running those as the real exams to see if there's any pressure points, if there's something that doesn't work, so you can put them in place for the external exams. So there's lots of pressure and lots of work that goes on behind the scenes so that exam paper either appears on the desk or appears on screen. And sometimes for people not involved in exams or even within centres, there's not that knowledge and expertise to realise actually what goes on.
Brilliant. Thanks, Paula. And I know from experience and speaking to schools that the communication sometimes between exam officers and SENCOs has been quite difficult. I know it needs to be quite strong to be able to get, the correct access arrangements for students and to ensure exams flow smoothly. It is a really difficult process, and I know people really struggle with that. So it's good to hear that there is kind of solutions out there. Is there any other solutions that to help support with kind of seating arrangements? I know that you support around some of the MIS systems and you've got some solutions there.
Yeah, we always say, if you've got a management information system, use it to its full potential. Don't be doing seating plans on Excel or Word documents. Your management information system can provide so much support. Or the software like Exams Assist, which is a great add-on to your MIS systems that can do invigilation, scheduling, seating, things like that. But also when you're looking at invigilation again, look at other software that's out there that could help you schedule invigilators rather than what I call email ping pong when you're going backwards and forwards. You've got invigilators that don't work at certain times because they've got to walk the dog or they have other commitments. It can take a lot of time to schedule invigilators. So using some type of software that's out there or using your management information system to its full potential will really help you in the long term. There might be an initial cost outlay or an initial time outlay, but in the long term, you will see the benefits of working more productively rather than the old sort of traditional method of emailing or picking up the phone to invigilators.
Thank you. And I know how important the MIS systems are. I know you've shown me a demo and I've seen kind of the access arrangements and adding in, like, for example, the exam reader and other solutions. So it's important then that people can actually see a visual representation of where people are seated and who's using access arrangements to who isn't. So I think kind of using the MIS systems and using some of the add-ons there, I think, is really key and important for exam officers and that communication.
And we always say within your invigilation training, give them a seating plan, give them a register, explain to them what it all means, so they know what the icons mean, so they know, the students with extra time, how that will work. And that sort of planning and preparation goes towards ensuring that the students have a streamlined and good exam experience, which is really important as well.
Of course, and then it makes it compliant, doesn't it, around the JCQ regulations as well, and it's a huge tick then for those people as well, which I think is key. So one of the major things that we know of and we hear about is malpractice. I know how easy it is to kind of fit into the lines there and try and struggle and be compliant. So I just wanted to pick your brains around malpractice and talk about how we stay compliant basically and ensure that nothing like that ever happens within the exam centres.
Yeah. Well, every year we see a small increase with the malpractice. So every year in about September, October time, Ofqual release the statistics from the last summer season. And for summer 2024, again, we saw a small increase in the amount of students and centre staff that have had a sanction imposed against them or an investigation for malpractice or maladministration. You know, technology's certainly changed. When I was in school, if somebody wanted to cheat, they wrote it on their arm or on the leg. But there's so much technology out there. I know a couple of years ago, there was a website, the top 10 cheating tips for students. And some of the things they was coming out with was incredible, if only they'd spent so much time with their revising. So what we always say is, you know, do student briefings, have a student handbook, have a page on your website so students can go on it, so they're aware of what malpractice is, so they're aware of what can actually happen if they commit malpractice. And I think sometimes that's alarming for students because they realise, you know, the sanctions can be severe. They can lose all the marks from a subject or even actually all of the subjects. But also invigilation training. You know, we spoke briefly about invigilation training. Is once a year session really enough to keep invigilators up to date? If you can, use invigilators for your mock internal exams so they get that experience and they're getting hands-on training, but also have regular update sessions with them. So if something happens one day, you're actually looking at it straight away. So you're saying to the invigilators, this happened yesterday, rather than leave it some time. Have feedback sessions after every exam season. What worked well? What wasn't they happy with? What do they think can be improved? But also make invigilators and centre staff aware that sanctions can actually be imposed against them as an individual as well. So if they commit malpractice or maladministration, as well as the school or college, they can actually have a sanction imposed against them. It's making sure that everybody is aware of the JCQ and awarding body rules and regulations, to make sure that we run a compliant exam centre, but also that we're supporting students.
Brilliant, thank you. And I think that's a key importance there is kind of communication and actually not only invigilators having that training, but also students being aware of what malpractice is and what it means. So do you feel it's important for all staff to be involved? Is this something that senior leadership should definitely be aware of and have some training based off malpractice?
Certainly means senior leaders or the line manager for exams and the head of centre should be familiar with all the JCQ regulations. One of our most popular online courses is our exams masterclass for senior leaders. We appreciate how busy senior leaders are. Taking a day away from the school or college might not always be possible. For our online course, they get unlimited access for the academic year, and we run through all the JCQ regulations. And we also have interviews with serving exam staff on how they feel they could be supported within their role. And we discuss best practice as well, so the senior leaders can actually support their exam staff. We help centres that find themselves, for whatever reason, without an exams officer. And last summer we was asked to support a centre whose exams officer had been taken seriously ill. And it was really warming, quite heartwarming to hear from them. Up to the summer exam season, the exams line manager has a weekly meeting with their exams officer. And then during the summer exam season, every single morning at 7 o'clock, the senior leaders meet with the exams officer. So although we was brought in as part of their contingency plan to support them with our exams experience and knowledge, actually their senior leaders was very on the ball with what was happening because they'd had that communication with the exams officer. We sometimes hear from exams officers and we'll sometimes see it on the forums, they don't feel they're supported, they feel they're very much on their own. And that's always quite disheartening to hear, actually, because it's such a vital role. And if somebody does need to step in, senior leaders need to have that knowledge or know where to find that knowledge to be able to support the exams process and support the students.
Thank you. I think that was the importance there, is to say, obviously, to exam officers who do feel alone, that they can reach out and get that support that they need. But I think it's obviously a process that schools need to follow, that they need to, all be aware of this, from senior leadership to even kind of the exam officer and students as well. So I think that's a key element here that we can take away. So you mentioned it earlier in our talk around technology. I heard you mention that very quickly. And I just wanted to kind of get your view around integrating technology into exams and your view on that, and how you've seen it supporting students in exams, especially over the last kind of 4 or 5 years.
Yeah, I mean, sometimes on the forums, we still see exams officers having to copy an exam script on multiple different colours of exam paper, which is very an old-fashioned traditional method. We have computer software now, we have the reading pen now, we have coloured overlays. All of these can help with the planning, the preparation, and it can also help on the day with the amount of rooms that you need. You know, if you're using a human reader and you've got all the students needing a human reader, that can take a lot of rooms and a lot of staff. While if you're using something that's based on the computer or the reading pen, the students are more independent on how they're accessing support, but it's also helping with your resources as well. So we always say to centres, look at what access arrangements you've got and how you can actually bring those forward this year and how you can support students with normal way of working. So if you are copying exam papers onto multiple different colours, why aren't you using computer software, or why are you not using at least a coloured overlay to be able to support that? Because my question always is, if you've got an exams officer on the morning of the exam, and this was something that appeared on a forum last year, and they're colouring an exam script onto 20 different colours, is that the students' normal way of working? Are teaching staff doing that every single day? Because again, that's taking teaching staff time up. So, look at the technology we have and how you can embrace it and how students can get to use it as their normal way of working. Because what we don't want is a student giving a computer reader or a computer pen on their exam and they've never used it before, because that can actually disadvantage a student as much as it is going to help them. They need to be using it within the classroom. They need to be using it within the mock or internal exams.
Brilliant. And yeah, that just highlights the issue for the need for this kind of normal way of working, helping students to achieve the best grade possible. That's what we want for all of our students. So I think it's important that within their mocks that they've been using it, they're getting used to using it, and they feel confident as well. I think, which is really key here. Something that I'm discussing with schools is around invigilator training and getting more invigilators. Have you seen the decrease in kind of invigilators wanting to support in exams, and what do you feel the kind of the has been happening there, basically?
Invigilation's always been a difficult role to recruit to and to keep people doing the role, just because of the nature of the role. It's normally paid at the minimum wage as well, and it can be very seasonal. So what we say to centres, we work in education, we know how hard budgets are, but if you can really use invigilators for mock or internal exams to give them that experience, going back to invigilation training is giving them a video to watch once a year, really effective training. Bring them in for sessions, do some scenario work, for sort of invigilators that are new to the role, buddy them up with an experienced invigilator. And if you're asking them to work in a room with a student with access arrangements that's maybe using a reading pen, that's maybe using a computer reader, make sure that they're familiar with the software, make sure that they've had access arrangement training as well, so they're aware of what support they can do, but also make them aware of how the technology actually works. Get a member of learning support team in to deliver some training on them. Because what you don't want is an invigilator as well on the morning of the exam, sort of thinking, oh my gosh, I don't want to invigilate in that room, I can't use that technology. Make sure the invigilators are supported as well, and get that feedback. After every exam season, speak to your invigilators. They're such a crucial part of the exam process. What went well, what didn't work well, and how can we support you better in your role.
Thank you. And I think that's really important, is trying to get invigilators, trying to get people supported. I'm hearing a lot around this training and support. One video definitely isn't going to work. We need to continue that kind of support as much as you possibly can. And like you mentioned, we know how difficult it is to get time out as senior leadership to do that. But also to try and get people on training is sometimes very difficult. But I think it's a key element to the cog of trying to achieve success in exams for your centre, and the main purpose to help support students get the best grade possible. Have you felt there's been a reliance a lot on extra time? Have you seen kind of people moving more into kind of using a kind of extra time as a access arrangement and supporting them? Do you feel that's a good way of using access arrangements, or do you feel there's other available arrangements that can be used?
There's other available arrangements that can be used, and it goes back to this normal way of working. And I know you listened to our podcast that I did with Barry, the access arrangement assessor, and we really talk about whether extra time is the way forward, whether that's really helping students. For example, if a student leaves to do an apprenticeship or goes into the workforce, are they then going to be given 25% extra time to do their job? But if they've used a computer reader, if they've used a computer pen, they are things that can transition into the workforce. They are something that we can continue to support students as they go into the workplace to be able to access work and to be able to support them with whatever need that they have. So I think as well, because the JCQ are saying senior leaders, SENCOs, learning support assessors need to have regular training, we're seeing a more of a move to other access arrangements rather than just a blanket 25% extra time, because they're doing a normal way of working, they're trialing things in mock and internal exams to see what actually works for students, which is really quite good, because 25% isn't always the best. You're always going to have situations where a student has multiple access arrangements as well. One of the common questions that comes up in forums and new to role training is, can a student have rest breaks and extra time? Well, yes, they can if that's the normal way of working. How that works in a classroom would be hard to see, but it just goes back to that normal way of working and what's best for that student and how you can support that student. But it is vital for access arrangement assessors, for learning support teams, to have that regular update training to see what's out there and how best they can support their students, because they know the students better. They work with the students on a day-by-day basis to see what that student needs, depending on their individual need.
Thank you. And yeah, it goes back to that, find a solution that fits the student more than fits the actual person to make their life easier. I think it's important to embrace technology. This is what I'm kind of gathering from yourself today, and find something that's going to suit them. Obviously, with extra time, you're not going to have that available to you in the workplace, moving into kind of apprenticeships, for example. So it's important to embrace the now and use something that's going to support you all day, every day, basically. So I think that's a key element that we can take away is let's look at technology. Let's look at something like the exam reader or other solutions to help to support students. What I want to go back to is something that we mentioned earlier was the communication between SENCOs and exam officers and how key that is. And I just wanted you to kind of explore that in more detail and talk to us about how key that communication is and how that can be improved and how that will help to support the exam season.
Yeah, it is. Again, it's one of those common questions that is asked is whose responsibility are access arrangements? And there is no answer. There is no yes or no. I always say it's about teamwork. It's about everybody working together to support the student and to remain compliant. So depending on the exams officer role, depending on the role of the SENCO within the school or college, really depends on who's actually doing the applications. In the ideal world, I think the head of learning support or SENCO should sit with the exams manager to do the applications, because then they both have an overview and then they both bring in expertise and experience to the table. And it also helps with the planning and the preparation for exam staff to know the students. But it's vital to have those regular meetings between the learning support team and the exams officer, so they can talk about what's happened within mock internal exams, whether somebody's used their extra time, whether they're using the reading pen, or whether they need more support to be able to do it. It's a big communication thing that we need to sort of keep pushing. I know the JCQ over the last few years have really pushed access arrangements on the SENCO head of learning support, but it is the exams team or the exams officer that are delivering the exams, and they need that support and they need some knowledge and experience as well. So 2 or 3 times a year, we do our access arrangement update workshop online for exam staff. It's one of our most popular workshops, and the feedback is fantastic because exam staff say then they're gaining knowledge of access arrangements. They don't want to just sort of deliver an exam and not really have the knowledge and skills behind access arrangements when they're so involved. And those last 2 crucial hours of the exam, if an exam's 2 hours, it's the final part of 2 or 3 years of teaching, of a student going to school or college. So it's vital that that exam runs smoothly and the student gets the support that they need. So whenever we go into a centre that's having difficulties within, say, access arrangements, we always say, work together, have a structured document that shows whose responsibility is it. We know that schools' budgets are getting squashed. Exams officers are often given other roles now, but it's vital that that time is found to liaise with the SENCO head of learning support to be able to support students and to make sure that everything's run compliantly.
Thank you, Paula. I think that's just so important is that communication, the understanding of the roles and working together, I think is the key here, and actually finding the right solution for the students that need that support, I think is something that we need to take away. So that's it from me in terms of questions, and we'll pop in anything into the chat box, or we'll pop in the links for Paula and her community and how you access the training that she's mentioned today. I think anybody who's interested, please click on the link and have a look at some of the information that Paula's got. I know a lot of you here will be sitting there and thinking we definitely need something to help with the training. Definitely go and get some refreshers. Definitely go and get some more information on updates on malpractice and understanding access arrangements and finding the best solution for students. But Paula, thank you ever so much for coming on and sharing your knowledge today.
Okay, thank you for your time and thank you for your invitation.
Thank you.